Well, hello, I'm Bruce Brown from Adult ADHD Unplugged, and today is the second section or second session of our Relationship Builders uh, course for people with ADHD or people who maybe have relationships or are in relationships with people with ADHD or anybody who is in, wants to be in relationships and maybe wants to have some tips, tricks, or whatever, have some insights into relationships in general. Although specifically, I'm going to be focusing on some of the factors in ADHD that people often have that affect their relationships. Now, I'm not a doctor, I'm not a psychologist or a psychiatrist, I'm not even a counselor anymore. It used to be years ago. But I do have adult ADHD, and I have been diagnosed with it for 5.5 years, approximately, maybe a little bit more than that. And it's been very helpful to have the diagnosis, largely because of the clarity it's given me on why I messed up some relationships badly, before, and so I'm going to talk about that, and the things that I've learned that have helped me at least understand when I do crazy, not crazy, but when I do stuff that just isn't helpful. That maybe because I think it's funny or appropriate, and it's neither in the eyes of the person that I'm talking with or people I'm working with or whatever. It's helpful to understand when it comes from ADHD, and maybe there's something I can learn from it. And maybe you'll learn from some of my mistakes and some of the strategies or things I've figured out to help to make things better. ADHD, having adult ADHD is not all bad when it comes to having relationships, and I want to talk about that as well. Now, just to jump back a little bit, when we met during the last video, you were given some homework and presented some tasks having to do with healthy relationships, long-term relationships, and maybe not so great long-term relationships. And it was suggested that you make a list of the people with whom you had those relationships and what you can do to keep them healthy. Or if there are problems with them, what you might do, what might be appropriate to try to mend the relationships if you think that would be a good thing to do. It's up to you. My experience of ADHD is my experience of adult ADHD. It is somewhat different, it appears, for everyone. We do have some things in common. It may be that as I talk about some of my experiences and some of the ways that it appears that ADHD affects me, that you can't relate at all, but then maybe there will be more that will relate, and you say, oh yeah, because we're not all alike. We have things in common, those of us with ADHD, especially adult ADHD, but we are all unique, we're all very special, but it'd be nice to have life be a little better maybe. We can always improve. We can always, even just understanding can be a huge relief. Realizing, okay, yeah, that's why that happened. All right, well, I wish it didn't happen. I wish it didn't do that, but now I understand, because I was so confused when I did that. I could see it was such a silly thing to do or hurt somebody's feelings or something. Okay. Now, jumping into the actual content for today's video, or for this second class or workshop or whatever this is, I want to ask you to think about how you benefit from having ADHD in relationships. What are the traits, or what are the things that you've noticed that have possibly been ADHD related, that have helped with relationships? Now, I'm going to give some examples, but think about that before I do. Think about what has happened maybe with family. Family, of course, knows you better than anybody else, hopefully. They're supposed to anyway, I think. But family and close friends, or maybe not quite so close, but friends, people you know, or people you work with, people in your community, in your neighborhood. What are the ways that ADHD has actually maybe helped a little bit? So let me give you some examples, get right down to it. So for me, one of the things that is true and it must be true because people give me feedback on it all the time, is that I have a lot of energy. And there were times when people would say, well, you're like an Energizer bunny. You're just going and going and going all the time. Don't you ever relax? But that's not what I'm talking about now. I was speaking with someone actually this morning on a video call, and it was a woman, and she said, we've covered a lot in this call, but it's like I feel much more energized. It's like I'm getting energy from you. So, and I get that a lot. I get people say that, and I think possibly it's because I am highly energetic, probably somewhat due to the ADHD, and also I love what I do. When I was working, when I work. When I was working, when was I not working? Because I really enjoy my work, but I enjoy it particularly because I'm doing things that I love to do, and so that translates for me into positive energy, and it comes across, and people can sense that. People like energy, as long as they don't see that it's, or think or feel on some level that it's threatening. And so that actually helps because I'm able to connect with people, even though at heart I'm an introvert. No one ever thinks that's the case with me, especially if they see me walking into a crowd of strangers and meeting 10 people really quickly, because I can do that. I learned about it. I've written a book. I wrote a book about it, 2 books actually, but it's okay. I don't mind doing it. In fact, I enjoy doing it. So does it make me really an introvert? I don't know. But I know that I love my time alone, and I really like to work alone. So I don't know, but anyway, that's one of the factors that seems to be the case with many people with ADHD, that we have a lot of energy, and it shows up. If it's not too over the top, then other people are attracted to the positive energy, especially positive energy. Negative energy, not so much. But if it's positive energy, people they're drawn to that because it makes them feel good. When you smile at someone, and they smile back, sometimes not even realizing, they smile back before they even realize they did it. It's a neurological, biochemical, something or other that happens in our brains when somebody smiles at us when we don't feel threatened. And, we kind of feel good too. So that's number one for me, just having energy and then smiling, which is more of a conscious thing for me, but I've train myself to do it so much because it feels so good that I do it when I speak with people pretty much often, and that's a good thing. So going right along with the energy is enthusiasm. I can get really enthusiastic about a lot of stuff, including when it's something that I have no personal interest in. If you and I were sitting down and having a cup of coffee someplace, and you started telling me about some kind of new hobby or a job or something, a new child or grandchild or whatever, and you were really pumped about it, I'd get enthusiastic along with you. And people like that. So I'm not enthusiastic only about my own stuff. I can get enthusiastic about theirs because it's not that I'm not going to be them. I don't have to actually go do that kind of stuff. If somebody likes on a rock climbing, and I don't particularly, then, if they're really, really pumped about it and they're talking about all the challenges and the progress they've made, I think that's very, very cool. I love to hear people doing stuff like that, particularly when it's something, accomplishing something big with something that they love to do. So that's enthusiasm, and that helps with relationships because people feel that you're really getting them. They realize actually that you really are enjoying what they're talking about, and you're interested in them, in what they're saying and in their activities in a positive way. That helps. That is a good thing. Another factor that is a good thing I noticed about is true for me, and I really can't separate what's just Bruce and what's Bruce with ADHD, but adaptability. And I haven't heard a lot of people talk about that, other people who have ADHD, but it's certainly part of the way I react to people, and it has to do with the enthusiasm, I think. But I'm okay shifting gears. If somebody wants to go from topic to topic, in fact, I like changing, but that's something a little different, a lot different, as I'm sure you know. But I'm okay with a change of course in an activity or whatever, and I don't necessarily get bummed out. I can get enthusiastic again about something else pretty quickly. And it doesn't mean that I was faking the enthusiasm. I mean, I just get pumped about stuff when it's positive action. If people are sitting around complaining about things, I don't get enthusiastic about that. I don't think anything good about it. In fact, I leave. If I possibly can, I remove myself. I'm not going to try to fight people, fight a group to say, hey, you guys, you're all just being, or we're all being too negative. No, I just go. I just absent myself because I'm not going to do that. But I will be enthusiastic about adaptations or when things adapt or change, when it's all on a positive note, working on something together or even individually and hearing about somebody else's thing. I think that's wonderful. And again, that's in a way sending messages to other people that, that are positive. And people like that. That makes a difference. Multiple interests, and I'm sorry, I'm looking at my notes, but I don't want to forget anything. I'm just looking at one word at a time. So, but having multiple interests is, I believe, part of ADHD. With me, and I've heard from a lot of people, it can be at times hard to pay attention to something that you try it, not too crazy about it, so you move on to something else, or maybe it's something you like a lot, but you're done reading about some specific topic, and then you go on to something else. Well, if you look at that from a positive perspective, then that's the idea of being really interested and enthusiastic about lots of stuff. And since most people, or many people, let's say, with ADHD tend to hyperfocus pretty easily, well, you can end up learning a lot about a new subject in not very much time. And it may not be something you want to dedicate your life to or spend a whole lot of time every month or any time every week or anything, but you sort of know about it. And so because you have multiple interests and you know at least a little about a lot of stuff, I think that can be a positive in relationships, because you're not just a Johnny or Susie one note. You can talk about a lot of things, and you know a little bit, so you can share. And the knowing a little bit isn't competing with other people's knowledge. It's being able to share with them and letting them know that you know a little bit about that. So anything they say, they can keep on going, because it's not going to be lost. Because you know about that a little bit too. Another one is that you're open to new experiences. I am, and in fact, sometimes I consciously seek new experiences at times. I like change. I'm comfortable with change. I like fast-paced change. I'm fine with that. It's very comfortable for me. And a lot of people with ADHD say something similar. That they're level-headed kind of when almost maybe even in emergency situations, because they're used to thinking fast, they're comfortable with thinking fast. In fact, thinking fast and having to make decisions quickly and go into action feels good to us, or it feels good to me. Heard it about from some other people as well. So being open to new experiences is just another way of saying some of the same things I've been saying about multiple interests, and very enthusiastic and willing to share the positive energy. It kind of all ties together. Another thing that comes from that is, if you're excited about something and there are tasks that need to be done, you're less likely to hesitate or try to get out of them or whatever. And I'm not talking about time management. That's a whole other thing, right? But people with ADHD are often very willing to just jump in and work hard and spend a lot of time and really focus and try to or not try to, but accomplish a lot in a fairly short amount of time. So if you're working with friends on a project in somebody's yard and you're just there, you're like a machine working, and wow. But it's not just, I don't mean just physical labor. You don't mind, we don't mind, I don't mind really chipping in, not making a livelihood of it, and dedicating my whole life to it, or even a whole week unstopped. But that idea that, when she or he gets going, they're really there. I mean, that's a positive thing, and that can help relationships. If somebody needs help and you jump in and you really stick to it and you really contribute a lot, that's a good thing. Now, you've heard the expression going all in. When you are committing to work on something, to be on a team, or to get involved with a community project, or get into a project at work, or maybe writings or creating something, and just sort of throwing yourself all in, your actions as well as your focus. That is part of me. I know it's related to my ADHD, and I've heard other people say something, similar, tell similar stories, and so I think that's a way that you can, it's a way to support relationships with people, friends, family, whatever, because if you're really able to commit fully to something you're working on, that or just doing for fun, that's a lot more pleasant for other people to be around than someone who's just kind of lagging. Well, I don't know if I really want to do that. I'm kind of tired. Can we just go get a cup of coffee? No, you're all in. I'm ready. Let's do it. That is, again, one of those positive, attractive energy kind of things that goes on. And since it comes naturally to many people with ADHD, that's the benefit. It certainly is in my book. Decision making. Okay, so this is the last of the short list that I'm using of things that I know that are true with me, and I'm pretty sure are part of my ADHD, is that I can make decisions quickly. In fact, I don't like to take a long time making decisions, and prior to my getting some clarity about my personal, about my adult ADHD and starting a medication, which I do take, I sometimes would make decisions impulsively that weren't all that great. The things that messed up, with interpersonal stuff as well as financial, and thank goodness nothing's, no one ever got hurt. And I know I didn't take physical risks involving other people anyway. But the idea that making a decision, if anything, you're going to want to slow me down because I'm going to be ready. I have learned since understanding more or getting the ADHD diagnosis, and by the way, I didn't mention this, but I had no clue. I knew I was hyper. I knew I worked hard. I knew I had a lot of energy and a lot of interest, but I had no clue that I had ADHD before, about a month before my diagnosis, when suddenly I suspected it and ran it through my doctor. Took it to him. We talked about it. He wasn't sure. Sent me to a psychiatrist. Worked with the psychiatrist. Eventually came up with a diagnosis. And yeah, you got that. But making decisions anyway, I find it very easy to make decisions. In fact, I like that. And other people, generally, friends, co-workers, whatever, they may think sometimes you make decisions a little too quickly, but it's better. Unless it's really rash and putting people in danger or committing money that's not there or whatever. That's really kind of not a healthy kind of decision, but that's clear to everybody else but not you. But if you make decisions easily and well, that's an attractive factor or feature for other people, because they don't want someone to just sort of, well, I don't know, do I want a hamburger or a hot dog? I don't know, what kind of buns do you have? It's like, what do you want? Do you want a hot dog or you want a hamburger? Let's just decide. Do you have any tuna? I said, well, I don't know, but the choice is if you only got those two, pick one. And if not, if you don't want anything, fine, but you're done. Decisiveness is certainly helpful in business. Can be extremely helpful in families and with friends and relationships and things in communities. You're being able to decide and to do it with reason, not just picking something that I'll go with door number one, but having some thoughts. And this is where I got in trouble. I'm hesitating a little bit with this, I realize, but because I made some impulsive decisions. That's the H in adult ADHD. The H stands for impulsiveness. In younger kids, it often tends to be hyperactivity and physical behavior. But with adults, it more often presents, as the med people say, it presents as impulsive behavior, impulsive decision making and changing and whatever. And, but so long as we're able to sort of, make decisions quickly, so we're not holding back other people, then that's a good thing, and people like that, and that can help us in our relationships. Man, I could come up with stories about each of these things with multiple individuals that I've known or been in various kinds of relationships with, but if I do that, we won't be out of here for a couple hours. And even if you are wonderfully polite or whatever and want to really stick with this and are loving what I say, you don't want to spend a couple hours listening to me go on and on with stuff like this, I don't think. If you do, let me know. We'll work something out. Okay, now how is it that ADHD can threaten or damage or destroy a relationship? And there are a few things. Let's just go right to what I was just talking about, impulsive behavior. Making a decision that is a very poor financial decision and making it kind of like on your own and just going with it, or making the decision and then not wanting to listen to anybody else, and just going full tilt in that direction when other people don't want to or aren't sure, it's a little too early for them or whatever. That impulsive behavior, impulsive decisions and activities. I mean, I can think of, gosh, when I was in junior high school, things I did that were so stupid. I mean, in retrospect, right? I'm sure I thought they were brilliant or really, really funny, which is usually what I was trying to get people to laugh. But fast decisions that ended up costing my wife and I and my family a lot of money because we committed to things that, oh boy, it didn't work out. Buying a car and keeping it for a week because, a new car, ordering a new car and having it show up, and after about a week or so say, yeah, you know what, this isn't really working for us, and then going to trade it in and losing a lot of money in the process. Stuff like that is like, that's not atypical for adults with ADHD, and I did that more than once, and not too happy about it. Also, decisions about other people. They say, yeah, you wanting to hire somebody who turns out to be a big problem, and other people saw it and you didn't, and deciding too quickly, then the company is committed. Or fire. Well, actually, I can't think of firing anybody on it, but I can think of social relationships that are sort of decided to have them terminate. Let's put it that way. And it was a decision that was made too quickly without really thinking it all through. So that impulsiveness can be harmful. It can be hurtful for other people, and it can really turn them off and get in the way of relationships. And man, do I feel that one. So that's a real thing. Another one is forgetfulness. I want to make sure I mention that soon so I don't forget it. It's still the case, even with the medication. Like, sometimes I even wonder if the medication makes it a little bit worse. But if somebody asked me to do something, I say, oh yeah, sure, and like I heard them. I know what they said. I thought about it quickly and I agreed to do it. But then I get distracted by something else on the way to go do what they asked me to do, or the end that I said I would do. And someone asks a question, or I see somebody walk in the room, or I see something I meant to pick up before from a task I forgot earlier, and then I'll go back and, I'm in the car. See, I got my keys, got my glasses, and I don't have my wallet. Okay, well, I'll go back in the house. What do I need? Okay, I got it. Got all that. Keys, wallet, glasses. I don't have my phone. So we use, a lot of people with ADHD use lists. Sometimes family members make them up for us. I've had that happen. Marge is great about that, understanding how this disease can work. And it is a disease. I mean, it's a disease, condition, whatever. It's a thing that we would not have chosen if someone had presented it to us as an option, most likely. I think we can make the most of it. But, yeah, it's a problem. And so forgetfulness can be part of that, forgetting things. And it's not because that we're not thinking about the thing, it's that we're more focused on something else. It's a very common description of people with ADHD that they can't focus. And my experience anyway is just the opposite. I can focus like a superstar. I am an Olympian at focusing. Not necessarily at choosing what I focus on. And sometimes when it blocks other things out, it's not good for those other things. So to other people, it may seem like I've totally lost my focus on original task, but it's only because I'm hyper focusing on something else. So it's kind of a weird game to play. And so anyway, we can figure out to make it a game where we can remember. It can be a helpful thing. And there are tips and little tricks we can do, like leaving little notes of things like in the car. Do you have your keys, your wallet, your phone, your glasses, your sunglasses, a hat, stuff like that. Talking over other people. I thought this was a New York problem. That I worked in New York, I commuted to New York, like I'd go in on Tuesday morning and come home on Thursday night, and worked in tech, writing computer reviews and stuff, and just used to talking very quickly. People in New York speak very quickly, and a lot of times working with tech people, we'd use a lot of jargon and just kind of and have monster-sized tasks to do. You need to test and review and write up those 19 monochrome monitors that are actually all made by the same 3 manufacturers. But you got to write up 200 words on each one and talking about how they're different. And you've got today to do that. Anyway, people working in New York, what I did when I was working there, tend to really interrupt each other a lot and try to, and it's sort of accepted. I mean, you just get used to it, and then it's fine. But in other parts of the world, and in non-heavy-duty, stressful, or pressured work situations, that's not that great a thing to do, to interrupt people before they finish their sentence. I had an editor in New York say, it's exhausting talking with you because I feel like I have to slide things in really quickly because you're going to start talking again. And that was a wake-up call, and I tried to learn from that. And that was 15 years or more before I knew that I had ADHD. I just thought it was a quirk with me, a thing that I did because I was working in New York in tech. But many people with ADHD talk a lot. We do. Certainly can't say we're not communicators, but if other people can't get their point across, if you get feedback that you're not listening, you're just talking, that's not a good thing, and that can be very harmful to a relationship. If another person doesn't feel they're heard, if they don't feel that you think that they're important enough to listen and to get where they're really coming from, you can see why that is not a great recipe for a happy, healthy relationship. A difficulty on focusing on things that do not interest us. So I need to be careful when I think of an example here, because I know some of my family members will be watching these videos. But if somebody starts talking about, let's say motorcycle maintenance, required maintenance of a Husqvarna or something, or Husqvarna, I don't want to go there. I love motorcycles. I like riding them. I don't like fixing them or maintaining them. And someone wanted to go on and on about tolerances and lubrication standards. Like, if we lose it, I know I said in talking about the positive stuff that we can share enthusiasm, but if there's something that really just doesn't get us, especially if it's being presented without much energy. Someone who's talking in sort of a monotone, and they're just kind of going on and on, thinking about the things and kind of drifting in the communication and talking slowly. That doesn't do well for me as a person with ADHD, and I think I've heard from a lot of other people too, and that can get in the way because again, the message that other people are getting is that you don't care. You want them to be interested in what you're interested in, but if they're interested in maintenance schedules for Singer sewing machines, you don't care, and so therefore you're not like being an equal partner in the relationship, whether it's a work relationship, family, friends, romantic relationship, or whatever, and that doesn't work. That gets in the way. Let's see. For that example is a specific about an overall topic, which is focusing on other people's needs. And I believe, I think that focusing on other people's needs is a learned skill. I mean, yeah, you have empathy. Hopefully, we have empathy. I know I try to work at that. I do. And taking the time to look for nonverbal cues. So we might say they're okay, but they're really not, or they're going along with it because they don't want to cause hassles, but they have a problem with something. Being able to really try to focus on trying to practice improving our skills in understanding nonverbal communication, picking up the visual cues or the oral cues or whatever. It can really help if we get better and better at those skills, that skill set, because often people with ADHD are not so great at that. And it's not that we don't recognize feelings in other people. It's not, and don't pick up on other people's emotions. I'm not talking about that. Some people have big issues with that too, of course. But this is more just not able to attend because it's real boring and we just don't want to go there. So we kind of get impatient and start thinking about something else, and then we're clearly not in the room mentally. And that shows really quickly. Any enthusiasm we manage to express will come across as fake, and people really don't like that. Okay, another thing that bugs people, and actually it bugs both sides of this when that happens, because I think fast, I decide fast. I don't mean that I think better or more accurately, or decide my decisions are any better, but I tend to do it do those things at very fast pace. If I'm talking with somebody or listening to somebody who is trying to think about what they're going to say as they say it, which that's a rational thing to do, right? But I find myself driving between their words, with my thoughts and going different places, and then trying to cycle back in time to pick up the rest of the sentence. And I don't always make it. I can lose, just lose track of what they're saying. I can lose my attention, paying attention to them if they speak real slowly, especially if they're trying to figure something out. You're answering the question and they say, well, that was that. And then they drift off to the computer and they start looking it up, trying to remember something that fits in. I'm afraid that doesn't work for me personally. It really gets me, and I know it gets them. I've had this happen in business situations. I've had it happen in family, with friends. It gets them irritated that I'm not patient enough to listen or to wait while they sort of figure out what it is that they need. Everybody has their own pace, and sometimes people have different communication styles. And I'm not saying that maybe other people couldn't learn to, have some work to do anyway in communication, but it can be, for me, it's kind of common to get a twinge. Oh, wait, I've got to really just not let any protuberance show on my face, and try to just really stand here or sit here or whatever and send out good thoughts and maybe smile, just as a way to support and encourage. Because when we don't do that, other people really, again, what happens is the bottom line end result is that they feel undervalued or unvalued, and that's not a good feeling for people when you're in a relationship with them, because they're going to want to terminate it. Change for change's sake. I have done that, and that's not a good thing. In general, I mean, certainly if it's overdone, change. I mean, I really like change. I like to reinvent myself for different careers. I've certainly done it a lot of times, and I'm even sort of thinking about something now. But I'm being certainly more gradual. I'm taking years to make this decision, when usually it would be a month on the outside. But there have been times when I've done this, when I've just made a change because I decided I just didn't like the way my desk was set up, or the room where my office was, or whatever, and just changing things around without consulting other people who are involved. And they walk in and say, well, that was working for me. I just sort of got used to that. Now I can really focus, and you've changed it again. That can be sort of a trap, and so you want to be careful that you don't let yourself fall into that pattern of behavior of just changing things because you want change, and so therefore it must be a very good thing. Okay, so that's a I could go on and on and on. I think you see that these things fall into categories, and the positive traits that people with ADHD can often have things to do with sending off good vibes, or with positive energy and enthusiasm and willingness to be a team player and really jump in and work hard. The negative things are the things that we do where other people get a message that they're not so important, and we're not really being all that positive with them because we're somehow on our own agenda. And if that matters, if it matters how with relationships, how people evaluate how your behavior and how you feel yourself about how it's going, then there are some things to attend to and work at in understanding, getting clarity about what's going on, asking for feedback so that you have a sense of what other people experience when they're in relationships or just working or talking with you. There are a lot of steps, a lot of things we can do. I want to summarize what I think are the greatest payoffs and some of the biggest costs. The payoffs and penalties, let's say, in the healthy and less than healthy relationships that I've had. And when I say an unhealthy relationship, I mean one that I messed up somehow. I don't mean I was running with bad crowds or something. The positives in healthy relationships for me have been then that I have felt supported and been able to even open up more and really apply my enthusiasm and my positive interest and my positive regard of for other people and get a lot done sometimes in a very short time. Some things I've even felt proud for the group, for being a part of, a small part usually, of a group that's accomplished quite a bit. Whether it was, well, anyway, I think of a lot of community activities I've been involved with that I really found very heartwarming. And so that's a really good thing, and that's definitely a payoff. Being able to be myself and be appreciated for that, and have that be somewhat affected by my ability to the ease with which I can open up and share who I am. That also has been, I would say, that is in part absolutely fueled and enabled by my adult ADHD. On the downsides, I have been too impulsive and have said things or changed relationships and business and social and whatever. And I've also just said things that are harmful or insulting that maybe I thought they were a joke, but they weren't. They didn't go over very well. Anything where that I've done that's beyond the impulsiveness, but where, although it might have been involved somewhat, but where whatever I'm doing is not focusing on, not resonating with the people that I'm working with or talking with or traveling with or whatever. That also is a sort of a penalty to pay. But we can work on all of this stuff. That's the cool thing. There is no test. We can keep going. We can keep improving. I know I've got enough bad habits that I can spend a couple lifetimes practicing and learning and really trying to get better at doing those things that I value in having relationships with other people so that I don't, mess them up. But also being able to appreciate and enjoy the wonderful relationships that I have. So that's it. No homework from this video, but please do think about how this works. What's your personal experience with things about you that chances are at least somewhat affected by having ADHD, if you do have ADHD, that empower you, that help you with relationships, form relationships, keep them, solidify them, make them better, and maybe be aware of try to figure out maybe what are a couple things that maybe I do that I don't know, maybe they kind of turn people off, or yeah, I know what I did, and that really turned somebody off. Well, maybe think of a couple of those things as well. That's what I've got. I hope you found this interesting. I'm certainly still learning And I find that exciting because I like to learn new things, and I like to improve myself, and particularly as I'm a citizen on this planet and our species to help other people have a better life too. I'm Bruce Brown. I have adult ADHD. Today I unplugged a bunch, and I hope you have a wonderful rest of your day, and I hope that you have some things to think about from this. Thank you very much.